calling Genaray. We are currently closed for holiday vacation. Our offices
I'll
will
call
reopen
2
on
days
Monday,
later, huh?
October.
Thanks for calling Genaray. How may I help you?
Oh yes, thank you for answering the call. My name is Dmitry Nikolai Petrov and I'm from Russia and I currently have Genaray Twin Sun panel, but I need you guys to make bigger panel, bigger things for bigger production. What can you do about it?
As a matter of fact, we're working on something right now that you're gonna love it.
Okay, let's see.
I've been moving this thing around for the last 5 days, and I'm a small guy, you know, especially you guys that have seen my previous videos. What do you think? Did my arms get a little bit bigger? I was actually in New York talking to them there. You know, maybe you guys should do a little something after the Genaray Twin Sun, but I was just kidding. But here it is. As I turn this panel, the inertia is incredible just by, you know, trying to stop the panel here. And this actually reminds me of the Steadicam Ultra 2, and this is the same inertia that you feel when you actually have a big Steadicam rig. I don't do Steadicam anymore. I've been doing Steadicam for the past 18 years, and that compressed my spine so badly that I actually suffer from back pain. And look at the size of this panel. And you guys asked for metal, you got it, but this panel is extremely heavy, so there are two options to deal with this panel. Number one is this crane right here, which will definitely take care of this, which I'm gonna be reviewing that next. Or if you have assistance like I do here, this guy is from Scotland and also a Viking. So this dude can actually lift this panel with 2 fingers. He can also crush this panel with 1 hand if he wants to, but that's not gonna happen. And the audio that you're listening to right now is from a brand called Sanal. They make also headphones and all kinds of audio products. They make their products exclusively for B&H and to be sold only at B&H. If you find this product somewhere else, I wouldn't do that. I would only buy it from B&H. And if you're interested in purchasing one, the link will be at the description. And a quick disclaimer, they sent me this panel for me to review and to test it. I don't get paid to say anything, and this video is not sponsored by anybody, and all my words and opinions, they are my own. So if you're looking for a powerful panel in this particular shape here that has very nicely diffused light without the need to add any other diffuser in the front, and also the looks is definitely a head turner. So to turn this on, you simply power it from here, and the panel is on. And this is the actual front of the panel. Has barn doors, and you do not see the LEDs. This panel is a 1x4 panel, and I also have the Genaray Twin Sun, which is a 2x1 panel. I actually reviewed this panel about 3 years ago, so the video is going to be here if you want to check it out as well. I use that panel a lot, and still today, after 3 years, this panel never gave me any sort of problems, and same thing is going to apply with this panel here, because it is the same exact thing, only bigger. And just to get something out of the way to let you know, the Sun series from Genaray, they don't have any application to be controlling this light with. However, they have DMX, which I'll show you in a minute how that goes. And I'm not going to plan to mount this light on the ceiling. However, it comes with a safety steel cable that comes included with this package here. And I plan to actually elevate this light to a certain height because the weight of this panel, it feels a little bit prohibitive from actually rising this thing so high because, you know, first of all, safety. This particular panel almost weighs 50 pounds. So, of course, the proper stand to mount this will be a combo stand or a stand like this you see on the background, which is an Impact brand, sold at B&H, or at least a C stand. So I'm actually using an Impact stand from B&H, and this is not a proper stand for this panel here because it is a very heavy panel. But to fit on the frame properly, you know, a C stand would be too tall and the other stand is going to be too low, so I actually have this stand right here. But I'm going to show you guys how awesome these B&H stands are. I have a nearly 50-pound panel here. So I'm going to be raising this here, and it's a little tightening there, and there you go. It takes it, believe it or not. But again, this is not a proper stand, okay? Don't do that, because I know what I'm doing here, and I'm right here just in case something happens. And to lower the stand, this actually features an air cushion, which won't do much for this panel. But I actually like this stand here for my B-rolls because how smooth that thing turns. And especially when I'm actually holding the thing from the bottom here out of the frame, like hiding for, you know, stuff like this here. I make the panel turn, right? This stand is awesome. And this is an older stand from B&H. They improved a lot of things, or something that requires no improvement. So they actually made a Mark II stand. So very good stand for most applications except for something like this here. One thing that I really like about this particular battery from Watson is because it displays the gauge at all times, so from a distance I can actually see how much power that I have here. Most V-mount batteries that I have to come here and press this button every single time, so this particular feature, I love it. So with this gauge is here lit, so when I actually turn off the panel, this whole thing is supposed to stop, right? It's supposed to actually turn off, but they don't, which means the batteries are always connected to this panel regardless if it is shut off or not. And then I made a test here. So I left these batteries attached for 3 days. So the day number 1, it draw about 1 bar. The day number 2, a second bar. And the third day, 3 bars out. So don't leave these V-mount batteries connected here, even with this panel off, because it's going to be slowly draining your V-mount batteries. So when you're actually done with the panel, remove the batteries and leave nothing in here. One thing that I highly recommend you guys should do with most panels, not only this one here, so when you actually use the AC power, make sure you disconnect these batteries first, and then if you want to use DC, disconnect the AC, then install the V-mount batteries here. Because some panels, they have some little bit of a current flowing here when you actually use AC, and I don't want the V-mount to be receiving any weird current that's not supposed to be happening here. So again, AC, no V-mount batteries, or DC, unplug the AC out of here. Now when you're running this panel via DC, you have to do the math. This is a 300 watt panel, and many V-mount batteries, they have different current, right? So this barely makes the 300 watt range, which means 148 times 2 is 296, I believe, so 4 watts shy. So right now I can actually crank this up to 100%. And the fan is on, which allows me to do that. And again, don't forget to do the math, because this barely makes it. So I actually feel comfortable reducing this panel to about 90%, which gives a little bit of room for this battery to breathe. If I can actually even do 80, I feel even more comfortable. And as you guys know, they all look the same from the back, but don't forget that they come in different wattages and power and everything. So this particular 2 ones here, they barely make the 300 watt mark. And this one here is a 201 watt hour battery. So times 2 is going to be 402 watts, which I feel very comfortable cranking this up to 100%, because it's going to leave me a whole 100 watt of breathing room here for the battery. Same way you don't want to fill a hard drive to 99% because you're looking for trouble, right? So always give a little breathing room for even batteries. And this one here is only 95, even the 98 watt hour batteries, they will work with this panel. But again, all you have to do is to do the math. This is a 300 watt panel. So with these 2 batteries, going to be about less than 200 watts, about 190 or whatever. And as long as you keep this at 40%, 50% or so, that's going to be about 150 watts, you should be okay. But it's not ideal to run these batteries here, because with these 2 batteries here, you can only run this panel for less than an hour, about 52 minutes with 300 watts of power in batteries here, just to keep that in mind. When you run these 2 here, probably an hour and 20, an hour and 25 minutes or so, something like that. Keep that in mind as well. First, remove the batteries. So right now the light is on AC, so that's on the panel. And again, this is a 300 watt panel. Of course, it's gotta have a fan here, right? So it spins very quickly to keep the light cool, but don't worry, you're gonna like to hear what's next. So right now the microphone is actually 1 foot from this fan here, and this is what you hear. And then, when you actually turn the panel the other way, look at the difference that it makes. The panel is actually blocking the fan, right? But don't worry about it again. Did you know that this panel, if you turn off the fan, yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can actually make this panel a silent panel. And it's not going to be 50%. I'm actually all the way up to 80% right there. And this fan will never turn on. So you probably have here 260 watts, 260 or 70 watts or something like that. Silent panel. So with that said, I'm not going to even bother to take this panel in the back office there, which is super quiet and silent, because you can actually use this panel as a silent panel as high as 80%. So I'm not going to bother with that. So this is how I do it with this panel and many other panels, especially high power panels. So if I don't need any audio critical applications such as an interview, and by the way, why would I need this much power for an interview that I'm going to be placing the panel this big, probably maximum like 10, 12 feet away, if that. But everything else, Let's say they're actually shooting a chef in a restaurant, making a recipe or whatever. There's so much noise on the actual ambient already, so the fans here is not going to do anything, right? So always leave the fan on as much as possible. And most of the time, you're not going to be needing this panel anywhere close to even 40%. Reading the specifications and the size and everything this panel is and everything that it can do, I was so excited. I couldn't wait one more minute until this thing gets here. So I was actually refreshing the FedEx app every 10-15 minutes, especially the day of the delivery, right? So the one thing that you don't have to worry about it, FedEx handling this panel, is this panel gonna arrive here in one piece? Yes, it will, because here's the case. This thing alone weighs like 10 pounds or so, and it comes double box, as you can see. And inside, you're going to find this massive padding right here. So the panel is super safe. However, for a panel of this size, they don't make a case for this panel. I don't know how much more that's going to be, maybe $300 more for this light if they included a case, but a case to me is something very important, especially if I have to transport this panel. And one thing that I'm good at is to find a case for absolutely everything. So you have no idea the keywords that I use with whatever product, that whatever doesn't come with the case. But anyway, so I actually have this case right here that I bought in $19.99. As long as you buy a case that's heavily padded like this here, it fits perfectly. This panel fits perfectly right here, so I actually have the case. So of course, don't expect this thing to survive an airplane check-in, because that's not gonna happen, right? Now, for transporting this panel using your car from either a state to another, that's not a problem. Make sure you buy a high-end case like this. That's not gonna be cheap. I forgot how much this thing is. I think it cost over $250 for this particular bag here. But it's better than spending like $700 on a Pelican case if you find something that actually fits this panel. And even if they made the case for this panel, that's going to cost on the upper $700, I would think. I'm not sure if you know, but B&H also sells musical instruments and also professional keyboards. So eventually you're going to find a case like this at B&H. Just search for 88-key synthesizer. I almost forgot to mention something here. When you unpack this panel off the box, which was a good 20 minutes of fun, because the way they pack this is extremely well packed. They do provide the hex tool. All you have to do is to come here and assemble this here. But don't over tighten, there's no need. Once it reaches the end there, stop, because you don't want to damage this here, okay? It also comes with a safety cable, just in case for some reason you need to hang this light somewhere. And it also comes with this little hex tool here. I'm not sure what that's for, but it also comes with a little one here. And in case you want to use this light with the DMX, they also provide this very soft and long DMX cable, but don't install XLR mic types of cable, because the polarity here is different, so you're going to be damaging something in the light. And this cable is very smooth. I'm going to open it up here. And when you actually throw this cable like this here, it unwinds itself without that annoying, like, little things that you see on most XLR cables. And to put this away, you don't want to do this, right? Because this is the #1 way to damage a cable. So observe the actual bandings from the factory. So it's very easy to put it away, and it will always look nice and neat, just like it came from a fresh sealed package. And these cables, they're very soft. So here's what it looks like, just like it came from factory. Then you put a little Velcro here that you can actually find at Home Depot. And look at that, perfect. Looks like, I just unpacked this here from the box. And this is the AC cable that comes with this unit. It's not too short or too long. It's about, I would say, 12 to 15 feet. I wish it was a little bit longer. And this cable is also very nice and soft. It's not one of those cheap PVC materials. And again, to put it away, it's the same exact concept. Very quickly, and it always looks neat, as you can see. Here's a quick overview of this panel. This is a 1x4 panel, all made of metal, massive panel, very beautiful. You can run AC or DC right here. It has fans, and also has the capability of making the fan shut up and give you as much as 80% of brightness with the fan switch off. And on the front of the panel, you cannot see the LEDs, and you're looking at a 120 beam of angle, and this actually floods the light everywhere. And this cool wide screen shape is the fact that you can actually light a lot of things here and there evenly. And this is what the panel is mostly used for, a very wide angle and coverage. The only thing plastic you're gonna find on this panel are these handles, which they are made of plastic. The Twin Sun is actually made of metal. I'm not sure why they made this in plastic, but this is a high density plastic, and I'm here feeling this panel, so I don't think that's gonna be a big deal because I don't see this breaking. So the only thing that I don't like about this teeth here is because I would actually lift this up a little bit and find a sweet spot, and then it will lock it down. It's no big deal, but it's just a little finesse here to do. So the best way to install this panel on a stand or to move it around, because when you actually open your arms this wide, it's very cumbersome to kind of, lift the panel. You're gonna feel the weight all the way here. So what I do is to first unscrew this, right? I grab it from the bottom here, and there you go. It's a lot easier to maneuver this panel. You have more control. You can do this here. You're not gonna hit anything. This way you have full control of this super heavy panel, and it's almost effortless to what I'm doing here. Make sure this is actually locked down well. So by turning on the panel, the fans will start to spin, and the minimum brightness will be 10%. You cannot go any lower than 10%. When it go up, it can range from 1% increments very quickly all the way to 100%. And here's the color temperature ranging from 5600 degrees Kelvin very quickly all the way to 3200 degrees Kelvin. I also like the fact that they actually made color-coded knobs, because the gray one, I will always know it is the brightness, and this one is always the color temperature. This pin also features a DMX, and to change the values, all you have to do is to press and hold the gray button. When you're set, press and hold again, and then it becomes the brightness button again. And the DMX ranges from 001 to 512. So here's the light at 100%, and this is the fan noise that you hear. And when you actually turn the panel away, the noise almost disappears. So the fan still bothers you, no problem. See this button here? You can actually make the fan switch off, and it gives you still up to 80% of light output of this panel. And as you can see, the fan has come to a complete stop. So at 80%, you're never going to see this fan activating. When you actually turn the switch back on, it gives you back to the 100%, and there you go. This is a bicolor light, so if you want to throw some colors here, as you can see, it features built-in gel holders, so you don't have to ghetto your setup with those ugly C47 little clothing pins. And this whole thing is made of aluminum. And to open this barn door, I actually recommend you getting from these extremes right here, not from here, not from there, from here. Because this is a very wide barn door, and to make sure everything lasts forever, so do it this way. And this came from factory very tight. In case this gets loose, it features screws here so you can actually tighten occasionally. But my Genaray Twin Sun, after 3 years, this didn't happen yet. So in order for you to uninstall this particular barn door for being so wide, first thing you have to do is to uninstall it first from the center here. And then you press the tabs. Then the other one, and it's out. To install, do the same exact way from the bottom here. And then from over here. And then press it in. How long did that take? I'm so picky with my gear, and everybody that works for me, including my assistants, they see me doing this here, so therefore they are going to be extremely careful with my gear as well, down to the power cord. And you see this little furniture, little piece here? I actually installed this here because if I'm in a rush in a production and I don't want to tilt this panel so far that this barn doors is going to be hitting here and scratch the stuff, you know. That's just me. Before I tilt this panel, I want to show you something else, because it features the knob on the other side. This one features nothing, and the way they build this here, I love the resistance. So when I actually tilt the panel, it just feels right. It's not hard or too soft, so the panel will keep collapsing here. So right now everything is loose, and everywhere you leave the panel, it's gonna stay, as you can see. It's not gonna, Now this will be the maximum tilt with the barn doors on. And most cases is plenty of tilting when you're doing an interview, right? You're gonna rise the panel. It should be okay. Or you can simply remove the barn door and just do a 360 if you like. But here's the thing, on the receiver there are two holes, one on the side and the other one on the bottom. So the one on the bottom allows you to mount a panel vertically into a light stand like this here, or you can actually use this other hole to put the panel back into straight mode and tilt 90 degrees. But I don't feel comfortable having something this heavy, which is nearly 50 pounds, to cause so much stress on the stand. In this particular stand here, if you attempt that, this is definitely going to break and snap off, and the panel is going to be crashing on the ground. So even if it has a hole here, be very careful with this. Always mount the panel vertically. This is my opinion, this is my suggestion. Isn't this thing pretty? Look at this yoke. The whole design, everything is nice and round, and this is actually super enforced for being a super wide screen light, if you will. The Genaray Twin Sun and the Square Sun, they don't need this extra enforcement here, but this one has it. So the yoke always stays and remains strong. But my favorite part of this panel is the back. Look at this thing here. You take this to any production, especially your clients, right? They're gonna be looking at you unloading the stuff and setting it up. You know, they're gonna be very impressed, which is another excuse for you to raise your rates. You know, I have the stuff here, so it costs a little bit more, I don't know. And here's the thing, I have seen so much talent out there, either on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. There's a lot of talented filmmakers, cinematographers, whatever you wanna call it. But the funny thing is, when you are in front of a client, especially the CEO, even the old school CEOs, every time you show up with something like this here, oh, this guy must be top notch, or it doesn't matter how good you are, right? When you show up with a little camera, they're gonna be like, you know, But my friends from Lehigh Valley, they actually have a huge production company, one of the biggest in Lehigh Valley. So they have a Sony FS6, the C500, all the big toys, the cinema cameras and all. They refuse to show up on a set with just a camera bare bone. Every time they put mat boxes and monitors, 4 monitors on the camera, just like a Christmas tree, cables everywhere. It always looks more impressive, so it gives you the idea that this guy knows what he's doing. It's very funny, but that's the truth. So the same thing for these panels here. You show up on a production set with this here, your client's gonna be like, oh my God. You know, go figure. But what really matters is the actual end product and the quality and creativity of a video, right? So panels like this or cameras, whether it is bare bone or full of stuff, is just a tool to help with the production. So each tool for the right job, right? So what are the main uses for this particular panel here? First of all, it's a 300 watt panel. It provides a very wide flooding capability of being a 120-degree light beam, and also the fact that you can actually cover 2 subjects on an interview set being lit by a single panel if you just want to bring one panel like this here. And of course, if you want dramatic lighting, you're going to need more panels in different shapes and sizes and all. But this panel here primarily is going to provide a very wide coverage and also at a longer distance for being a 300 watt panel. The only thing that's missing from this panel, and I really want to see Genaray making these particular accessories, are metal grids, because the Twin Sun and the Quad Sun here, they do not feature grids. Not every time I want this light to be flooding everywhere, right? So there will be a metal grid that will attach the same way the Barndoor attaches right here, or even better, making a grid that you can actually still have the Barndoors plus the grid, but you don't necessarily need the Barndoors because the grid is actually better than a Barndoor. But I really want Genaray to actually release an accessory such as a metal grid that goes in here. Let's do a brightness test with this panel exactly placed 3 feet away from this background. I have a measuring tape to make sure that it's actually 3 feet or nearly 1 meter away. Here I have my light meter set to ISO 100 with the light set to 3 feet away from the background. So let's do a little test here. So at ISO 100 you have 5.6.5. Now I want to change it to 3200 Kelvin to see if this light has the same exact brightness level. And from 5.6.5 goes to 5.6.2. It's just a tiny little bit less output. Now we're going to change to 4200 degrees Kelvin and see what happens. Beautiful. So even at the mid-range, this light is not going to throw off your exposure. So when you actually come here and change from at least 5600 degrees Kelvin to 4200 Kelvin, you're going to have the same exact exposure. And at 3200, just a little bit under a third of a stop. Right now you're looking at a very Genaray Quad Sun lighting my face, and the light distance is at 4 feet. I can actually touch the yoke, and I placed the light about 45 degrees, so this is what you get here. And the settings is ISO 100 f5.6, and the shutter is 1/60th of a second, and the frame rate is 30 frames per second. And this is what you get here. And I always leave my camera set to manual Kelvin, so right now it's set to 5600 degrees Kelvin, and I have the light set to 3200 degrees Kelvin, and this is what it looks like. And at 3200 degrees Kelvin, there's a slight drop in brightness, so it was 5.6 aperture before, now it is at f5. Right now, the only thing that I did is to also set the camera to 3200 degrees Kelvin with the light set to 3200 degrees Kelvin, and this is what you're looking at. Right now I have this light set to as far away as 11.5 feet, and I also dropped the ISO to 200 f4, and this is what you get. That's a lot of power. So here's the last test for you guys. Now I have the panel bouncing off the ceiling. I have about 3,000 square feet of space here, and the ceiling is as high as 13 or 14 feet, and I'm still getting ISO as low as 400 f4, and the shutter is 1/60th of a second, and this is what you get. And that's the end of my review. I hope you find the content helpful. And if you want to help this channel out, please like, share, and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And I also have affiliated links from B&H. So if you decide to purchase this from me, all it tells B&H is that somebody purchased something from me. The price does not change. So I would really appreciate that as well. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.